Hello, everybody, and welcome to this brand new spoiler review episode here for the Suicide Squad, brought to you by the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! Well, we're back at it. We're nice in unison, ladies and gentlemen. We are the Geek Buddies Squad. We're here to hang out and talk to you guys about this movie, The Suicide Squad, that dropped over the weekend in theaters and on HBO Max. From director James Gunn, starring all kinds of people like Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, Joel Kinnaman, Daniela Melchior, David Dastmalchian, Sylvester Stallone, Margot Robbie. Did I ever say Margot Robbie? Viola Davis, some dude with a javelin, the Weasel, Sean Gunn, Nathan Fillion, Michael Rooker. There's so many people in this movie. Pete Davidson, so many people in this movie. We're going to break it all down and talk about everything spoilerific about the movie. And so this will be but your second to last warning as we'll get into the movie. And also remember, the Streamlabs and Super Chats are open. So any questions you got, send them in now. We've only got 90 minutes on this review. There's a time limit on this review. So if you get your stuff in late, you might not get it answered. And what are you paying the money for if you're not going to get the answer you want? So just letting you know right off the bat. So start sending in the Streamlabs Super Chats. I pinned it in the chat. It's right above our head. It's up there on the chat. Oh, wait, let me switch the brand so it reflects it. It's one of these up here, so I'll figure it out. Is this it? I think this is the right one. There it is. Streamlabs above my head, and there you go. All right, so let's get our overall points of views. Mike, we'll start with you as we always do on the shows. What's your overall feeling now? You've had a couple of days to think about The Suicide Squad, and what was your overall feeling about the movie?
I think it is one of my favorite of the DC movies. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Had a blast. Don't think it's perfect. Don't think it's like the greatest thing ever. It's not my favorite James Gunn movie, but we'll get into all that. But that being said, like, I truly had a blast. Like, we went to see it. Shannon was with me. We were with some other people and went in to see it. Could not have had a better time in the movie theater. Laughed my ass off. Had a blast. Visually stunning. Really just enjoyed the hell out of it. Definitely a lot better than Suicide Squad. My favorite Margot Robbie Harley Quinn that we've seen out of all of the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn pieces. I thought this was the most Harley for me. So I have a lot of really great stuff, a lot of praise, a lot of things that I absolutely loved about it, and some things that I think didn't fully work about it that we'll get into as well.
Absolutely, for sure. You know, this is two separate Suicide Squads going into Corto Maltese, which a lot of us know from The Dark Knight Returns or from Batman from 1989 and numerous other stories, Shannon. And then we get the first Suicide Squad and what happens to them, and then the second Suicide Squad, which pretty much carries the movie. What did you think about the overall effect of this movie? And like Michael, do you think it's better than the first one?
Definitely think it is better than the first one by leaps and bounds. It's not even in the same conversation. I think for me it was a victim of very high expectations because coming out of Fandom, I was super excited to see it. Loved all the marketing. Seeing those initial reviews that were just through the roof, at least the ones that I saw. I probably had it set up at I had an unrealistically high bar set for it. So when the movie finished, I was like, yeah, it was good. I was like, I was expecting an A+, and I got a solid B. Going back and watching it again on HBO Max by myself, I liked it a lot more. Tons of great performances. There are, like, I'm very curious what got left on the cutting room floor, because there are many a character arc that was kind of like, it just kind of ended. There's some characters, like, it was so packed full of people. There were some characters I'm like, you didn't need this. You didn't need this character. It was kind of a waste of a character in my opinion. But overall, it was a blast to watch in a theater. Really great to hear, just an audience all laughing kind of at the same time. And I hope that the movie has some legs because, we've all seen the box office receipts and the articles that have come out in the wake of it. And I think the movie's probably getting a little unfairly maligned, even though I didn't think it was perfect.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on that later on in the show for sure. And this is your final spoiler warning. We will be spoiling the movie. So if you haven't seen it, turn this off, go to your local theater, or pop on HBO Max, watch it, and come on back and pick up where you left off. I will say this, watching it again a second time, the holes are more evident, but the things that I really enjoyed about it are even more enjoyable when I watch it a second time. So I will say this, I really liked it. I liked what we got. I enjoyed the twist and the change. Did he go too far sometimes with the humor? Yes. Did it affect the stakes sometimes? Yes, it did for me in certain situations. But overall, this is more the direction that they want to go in. And this is the reason you hire James Gunn, because you want this kind of movie around your characters. And yes, it does feel very much like it rips off Guardians of the Galaxy, but then again, it's the same director. So are you ripping off yourself? I don't know. Is Snatch a ripoff of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? You tell me. I think he did a marvelous job with this. I loved, as Michael said, I loved Margot Robbie in this. Really had an emotional moment after she kills the dictator. That was Margot Robbie showing behind all the makeup, there's a damn good actress sitting there doing some great work as well. Idris Elba even had this fantastic moment near the end of the movie with Sebastian, where he kind of goes over his fear to pet Sebastian. That's some real acting going on. This isn't just, surface level acting. So this is why you cast the actors that you cast, so they can bring out the best in a wacky, crazy, insane movie. And I'm here to tell you Starro is a victim of the human race. And we're going to get to that as we go along. But let's start off, first of all, with as we mentioned, Idris Elba coming in to lead the squad. What did you guys think about his character, his relationship with his daughter, Storm Reed? Shout out to Storm Reed, who's killing it lately on so many projects. And also how he came about leading this team from beginning to end, and his back and forths with Peacemaker. Mike, what'd you think about Idris Elba? What'd you think about him as Bloodsport?
Well, I think this movie definitely, kind of to your point on the acting front, benefits from the fact that every actor in this movie was great and every actor was bringing their A game. Mm-hmm. And I think that really helped you sort of move past the fact that maybe some of the arcs, to Shannon's point, aren't fully developed. And I think Idris Elba is the perfect example of this. He's great. He is charming as fuck. I could watch him all day long. Bloodsport, I'm in. Bring him in all the movies. He's great to me. But as far as his character arc, this entire concept that they set up of you're not I'm going to make you a leader. You're the leader of the team. I'm not a leader. And then at the end he leads. I'm kind of it worked. It was there. It was fine. Right. But I didn't really know what I was rooting for his character to do throughout the movie. Aside from the fact that I just really liked him a lot. I was on board with him. I do think that, and we can dive into this a little bit more later when we talk about Peacemaker as well, but I think what James Gunn was trying to set up in this movie is this idea, the Suicide Squad in general are a bunch of bad guys acting as heroes. And if you look throughout this movie, you see you've got Peacemaker, who kind of says he stands for one thing, but is really kind of the villain of the piece. And you've got Bloodsport, who's kind of says, I'm a villain. I'm a shitty dude. I'm a bad dad who ends up being a good guy. You also have us thinking that, it's a foreign power that's our bad guy. And then we really find out it's America that's the bad guy. So there's a lot of what does it really mean to be a good guy? What does it really mean to be a bad guy? And I think that they were really setting up this idea of you have Bloodsport on one side, you have Peacemaker on the other side, both kind of believing they stand for one thing, and then at the end it kind of flip-flops. And that's all there. It works, but I don't think that it really packed the wallop that maybe James Gunn wanted it to. So what do I think? So that is a very long-winded answer of saying, I thought Idris Elba was fantastic, and I would see him in any DC movie that continued to come off, because I thought he was a complete badass. But I thought the writing of Bloodsport was maybe just a little bit underdeveloped.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong there. I feel like the leader thing was Waller's kind of fucked up way of trying to retain some kind of alpha control in that relationship, because she was ready to pop his head off his body before she was hit with a golf club. So you're right. It doesn't really fall. And even the stuff with the daughter, with Storm Reed, that's my dad. It didn't really pack that punch, because we only had one interaction with them, which was dysfunctional. And certainly many family members could relate to having an interaction like that. but there wasn't more to supplement it, right? Well, there wasn't more scenes with Storm Reed, with her, like, you know, being ashamed of her dad, trying to defend her dad to other people, which seems to be in foster care or whatever. Shannon, what did you think about how they handled Bloodsport here and him essentially stepping into Will Smith's shoes? I mean, the similarity between him and Will Smith's character in the first movie, a young daughter, you know, dad in jail, trying to defend himself. Like, there's definitely similarities that hit the same beats. What do you think about him stepping into the shoes?
I mean, as an actor, Idris Elba is just magnetic. I mean, you can't not watch him. The thing that I think really stands out about his performance is basically what Vogel said, is he was able to take a little and make a lot out of it. I mean, by the end, it does leave a little, because you don't really get any sort of, you know, reconciliation with his daughter. Like, she sees him on television, and she's like, oh, that's my dad. Like, you know, maybe he's not this shitty guy, but basically him becoming the leader, that didn't really, it wasn't like the strongest connection to his daughter, but it was just sort of like, okay, we need the team to turn around at this point, and he's going to be the one to do it because he's the guy stepping into the leadership role. I feel like with most of the characters, something that the first Suicide Squad did very well was showing us something shitty that they did to put them in Belle Reve. And this, we know, like Amanda Waller tells us, like, hey, he put Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. All the rest of them were sort of inferring what they did. And I think that was probably a weakness. But we can talk about that when we get to those other characters.
Sure. Okay, well then let's swing back around to you, Shannon. What did you think about Peacemaker? What did you think about John Cena? What he was able to do here, stepping in. I mean, John Cena showing up in more and more franchises, really establishing himself outside of the wrestling ring, even though he came back to wrestle a couple of weeks ago and will be at SummerSlam in the coming weeks here. But this is something that launched with F9 and now he's into this. So two big franchises back to back. Did you like that this showed more of the humor, more of the back and forth? And of course he has that turn at the end. Did you like his addition and what he did in the movie?
I have not seen every John Cena film, but I would go as far to say this is 100% his best performance.
Wow.
From beginning to end, I thought he did a fantastic job. He played just this broy, misguided douche so well. Like, he was just so funny, and then he has some really nice dramatic moments at the end there. I mean, when you get to his turn, this is the movie, like, you know, Blockers, I thought he was funny, but he was also surrounded by a lot of funny people. This is the first movie that I'm like, okay, maybe you could carry a movie by yourself. Like, maybe this Peacemaker series, maybe this is going to be something good because, you know, you're the guy. I was not expecting a whole lot from him, and I thought he did a dynamite job. I mean, just really, really solid work.
Yeah, Mike, what did you think that John Cena brought to this movie that maybe the previous Suicide Squad might have been missing? Or what did you think he brought overall, though, to the characters and to the overall trajectory of the film? Because he has that turn at the end. He's played for laughs for the most part, even though he's like chopping people up left and right. But at the end, there's a really legitimate, serious turn when he tries to kill, when he kills actually Rick Flag and almost kills Ratcatcher 2.
Yeah, I think that John Cena has proven himself to be a very charismatic, likable guy. And I think that when you have someone who ultimately is the villain of your all-villain piece, the one that we are not rooting for, you know, it would be really easy to hate him. And as a character that kind of represents a very thinly veiled analogy to America itself, you know, it's like they're definitely setting him up to be kind of this asshole. And yet, because it's John Cena, like, you really are charmed and enjoy the humor. I mean, he's basically a dumb frat bro, patriotic killer. So like it's like 3 strikes against him on like you shouldn't like him, but he's really fun. And I mean, and I think like the sequence when they ultimately are killing a bunch of freedom fighters, but when he and Idris Elba are kind of trying to out-assassinate each other. Is that the right word?
Sure.
Out-assassin each other. But when they like that, it's so much fun to watch. Like the interplay between two of them. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that James Gunn clearly was trying to build this thing between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I like, even though he didn't fully get there, maybe in my opinion, all the pieces along the way were great. Like watching them sort of kind of see who had the bigger gun, like who could outkill who was the better assassin, who was the better villain, and then also watching them kind of work together as they made their way through the whole adventure. Like, it was fun. These two were playing off of each other really well, and particularly given the fact that Idris Elba is, as Shannon said, just a magnetic actor who is just bringing his A game to anything he does. The fact that John Cena was kind of going toe-to-toe to him and kind of holding the screen next to him and holding your attention, like, it really does say a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And look, Johnny just donated here. He said, honestly enjoyed the U.S. imperialism stuff, but how did the Geek Buddies feel about it? Justice for Polka-Dot Man. We're definitely going to get to David Dastmalchian and his mom for sure in this review. But yes, I think the U.S. imperialism thing, I like that they hit it. I thought it was gutsy of them to hit it, for lack of a better term. I also think this was great within this scene that Michael pointed out, and so did Shannon, of Idris Elba and Peacemaker, basically Peacemaker and Bloodsport out assassinating each other throughout that camp. That's the hubris of American weapons, of the design. Like, they're so caught up with trying to outdo each other that they don't realize that they're killing innocent people in the process. This idea of wanting to be the big alpha dog in the room kills these resistance fighters. Essentially, you can make that a separate country, a small country. Essentially, America and whoever America's battling, they're battling each other and destroying the small country because they're lesser than, or they see them as lesser than. So the U.S. imperialism throughout, when Viola Davis is like, we're done here, you've got the records, get out of there, and they turn their backs on her and essentially risk getting their heads blown off by that trip to go back in and save this country and fight against Starro. That's against U.S. imperialism. So what did you guys think about it? Was it a little too on the nose, or did you like the way it was kind of working underneath everything?
I don't think it was too on the nose at all. I mean, I think this is stuff that has happened throughout the history of our country, unfortunately, and it would not be a shock that something that could take us down is a monster of our own making. So I definitely didn't think it was too on the nose at all. It didn't bother me one bit.
Okay, Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm kind of with Shannon. I don't think it was happening underneath. I mean, I think it was pretty much happening on the surface. They were like, America did bad shit. I think that is true, and I think it's like good that James Gunn wanted to tackle that, and I think doing it in the way he did it in Suicide Squad, where you're able to kind of have a little bit of a, hey, we're having a movie about what it means to be a bad guy or a good guy, so maybe we should take a look at ourselves a little bit, but also there's a giant star monster and we can have some fun. That's the way you do it. I am curious, and I've been thinking about it ever since we saw the movie. I don't know that I want to see American Imperialism, the TV series on HBO Max. I'm not quite sure what the Peacemaker series is going to be. Right. I am sure that James Gunn has a plan. I am sure that he has an idea on how he wants to tackle it and use this character for a certain thing. But I'm seeing some people in the chats like, there's a lot of people in this movie that I would rather see an HBO Max series about than Peacemaker, despite John Cena's great performance. So I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, we do have an end credit scene where the two people walk up to them. Jennifer Holland is one of the actresses. I thought she did a really great job with her role that she had in the movie. I haven't seen her much, so it was my first time seeing her. I think the other gentleman I've seen in other things before, but they're essentially probably going to be Steve Aggie. Yeah, it looks like those two are going to be like his guys, his people who are going to guide him and assign the missions to him and what have you. So you're right, Michael. You hesitate a little bit because if it's a guy I'm not going to like, or you're trying to redeem him while he's doing the American imperialism shit, I don't know how many people are going to be on board with this. Plus, having two white leads leading another white lead doesn't work. So, I mean, hopefully there's more people of color getting involved in this and more women getting involved in this to see where we're going, and people from other countries, so that there's a calling out of Peacemaker with that series. We shall see. But like you said, Mike, we don't know. James Gunn probably has a big grand plan for this situation. We shall see. Let's move on to Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn. Mikey, what'd you think of Harley Quinn in this movie versus Birds of Prey versus Suicide Squad versus anything else she's appeared in before? Did you like this version of her? Do you sense that Margot Robbie has grown into the role and is now commanding the role, at least on screen, as much as maybe Kaylee Cuoco now is doing it animated-wise?
Well, I'll put it a different way. I don't know that Margot Robbie has grown into the role. I think the movies have grown into Margot Robbie. Okay. I think Margot Robbie was the best part of Suicide Squad. Like, as much as I dislike the first Suicide Squad, I think Margot Robbie was killing it as Harley Quinn, despite the fact that she had to wear the sexy outfit and the little thing, like she was still like, she was killing it as Harley Quinn. In Birds of Prey, which I think is a better movie than Suicide Squad. I don't love everything about it. I think Margot Robbie is killing it as Harley Quinn. Yeah. And I think this is the movie that finally elevated the rest of the DC universe to be as big as the Harley Quinn that she plays. And I think she is absolutely my favorite part of this movie. I was rewatching parts of it now, and you can kind of tell, especially now that you can watch it on HBO Max, especially when you don't have a lot of time. You're like, oh, let me skip around, and what do I want to watch? Yeah. And I just find myself watching all the Harley Quinn parts. I think she was fantastic. Harley Quinn is one of my favorite characters in DC, if not all of comics. And I think Margot Robbie just understands the character and gets it. And she's always been playing it the right way. Right. It's just the rest of the movies around her maybe didn't fully get it. And here, watching her give a speech about her red flags in relationships, and that's why she had to shoot a man. I wanted to stand up and cheer in the audience. Yeah, I mean, James Gunn does her right, don't you think? Shannon, as a director, she's really showcased every scene she's in. I saw someone tweet out that she was sidelined in the movie. What the fuck are you talking about? She's such one of the most memorable parts of the movie. Her fight scenes are incredible. I mean, the flowers thing as she's going through mowing down all those dudes, I didn't see that coming at all. I thought it was brilliant. Her use of the javelin, the irony, and I said this in my watch along earlier today on Twitch, Shannon, I felt like the one perfect guy that was for her was Javelin, and he got killed. It's just the irony of that when she's talking red flag, because he hands her the javelin and says, you are the only one worthy to carry this thing. And so how ironic would it be that the one guy would probably support her, respect her, uplift her is the one who dies on the beach next door? What did you think about how Harley Quinn was portrayed in the movie and what Margot Robbie did in this film?
Yeah, of her 3 appearances as Harley Quinn, this is definitely my favorite. And I think this is where she kind of I feel like she probably had the best director, and also because this was an ensemble movie. I mean, she gets her moments. I don't feel like she was sidelined at all. I mean, I do think she has 2 of the best moments, 2 of the best sequences in the movie, when she's with the general and then when she's escaping that prison. Both of those sequences are fantastic. There was a joke that I thought was coming when she talks at the beginning to Javelin how much she likes his accent. And then when she meets with the general, I was like, oh, you got to say you like his accent. You got to say you like his accent. And then when she meets Bloodsport, I'm like, you got to say you like his accent. You set that up. Why are you doing this? No, I thought she was dynamite. The thing with the flowers and the birds as she's taking out those guards, I do wish for the audience, and this is a personal thing. People might disagree with me. I wish they'd given her some sort of psychotropic truth serum, so she was actually seeing all this shit kind of as she's laying these guys out. She's actually seeing it, and I think it makes the introduction to Bloodsport, if she's still got the kind of little trippy birds hanging around, I think it would have made the sequence that much funnier. But again, just me.
Yeah, I do think to the people that think she's sidelined, I think the reason that people might feel that way, because I do agree, I think she has some of the best moments in the entire movie. Oh yeah. In an ensemble movie, if you're giving everyone their amount of screen time, she definitely has one of the bigger amounts of screen time since she gets to go off on her whole own adventure.
And kill Starro.
And ultimately kill Starro. Yeah. I think though that from an emotional standpoint, again, so with Bloodsport, we know that we are given, you're a shitty dad, and you're no good. You say you're a no good villain, and at the end, you save Ratcatcher 2. You're a hero. You stop Peacemaker. So you do get a little bit I think it's a little thin. It could have been bigger, but that is an arc.
Yes.
Polka-Dot Man gets to have his I've got all my fucking issues. Oh, I'm a superhero. Each Peacemaker is you think he's this guy, you think he's this guy. Harley, every moment she has is golden because, like I said, Margot Robbie is just killing it at this point. But aside from what should I use this javelin for? Oh, this is what I will use this javelin for. She doesn't really have an arc in the movie. She is just sort of chaos unleashed at all points and is Harley Quinning all over the movie. And it's a joy to watch. But I think if people feel like she's sidelined, I don't think it's an issue of she needed more screen time or I wish I got more Harley. I think it's, what was Harley's journey in this movie? And I think that she didn't really have a journey. She was just there having a fucking great clowny Harley Quinn time.
It feels like, and maybe I'll push back a little bit on that, Mike. It feels like her journey is through all 3 of these movies. She's lost Joker and all that in Birds of Prey. She's still processing what she's going to be and who she is as a woman, which is why she has that speech there. And the Javelin thing is in essence purpose. Like she's seeking purpose, what she's going to do next with her life. And so being able to use the Javelin and find her purpose, and that is kind of a minor victory for her. And what's the next step? And I've seen a lot of people maybe are saying that she's going to be like the Tony Stark of the DC universe, where she will show up in multiple people's movies, do some scenes, and be in and out, which I would kind of like to see because she just delivers every single time. So along with her own movies, being able to pop into Aquaman or the Batman or anything else you've got rolling through, I think would be very interesting for myself personally.
I think it's I think that's a really good point. I think if you look at Suicide Squad to Birds of Prey to The Suicide Squad, you can definitely make that argument. I would push back and say if you really wanted that argument to land, like if you really were like, Suicide Squad is you're still in love with the Joker, he rescues you at the end. Birds of Prey, you're moving on from the boyfriend, you're trying to figure out who you are on your own, you got a bunch of girls to help you out, and in this movie you really step into your own, then it would have been the way you would have built that arc, for an example, not the only way, but that for an example would be to say, she earlier on in the movie was relying on, well, Rick Flag is going to help me out, or Bloodsport's going to help me out, or these. And then at the end, with Rick gone and everything else, she realizes that she's the only one that can help herself out and says, oh, I don't need anybody else. I'm doing this on my own. All you ever want if you're a Harley Quinn fan is that moment where she goes, oh,
yeah,
I'm fucking complete in my own right. Therapy solved. I'm going to save the day. And she does do that. So you make a valid point. I think if that was what they really wanted to do, they could have, again, and I guess this is like my...
Brought more attention to it. That's not fair.
Yeah, this is my only complaint of the movie is I thought everything that happened was great. And if there's just certain parts where I'm like, ooh, if you had dug in a little deeper there or done that a little bit more, I think it would have landed even harder.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's rewatching it a second time. That's what struck me about the movie is you went for the jokes when you could have gone for the deeper stuff. And we've seen you with Guardians of the Galaxy go for the deeper stuff within the jokes. So I don't know why he hesitated going for the deeper stuff, or maybe he was told not to go too deep on some of these things. Who knows? Shannon, let's swing around to some of the comedy here. Polka-Dot Man, let's talk about it. I mean, David Dastmalchian apparently can exist in every universe known to man in the superhero world. Here he is sliding into this role as Polka-Dot Man, and you can tell he's a very conflicted person. We see him with that thing around his neck being unstrapped, and then Sean Gunn makes fun of him and all of that. And I don't know if he's playing Calendar Man or not.
I think he's Calendar Man.
I think so, yeah. He's making fun of him. Shout out Sean Gunn, who gets 2 roles in the movie. But yeah, he's doing this, and then we find out like he's got those the rash on his face, and we see him do those spinning things to get rid of him. But then the mom stuff is great, and I don't know much about this actress, but she was perfect casting for his anger and his frustration, and he gets that payoff, as Michael said. He gets that arc where he says, "I'm a superhero," before Starro stomps him to death. What did you like about what Dastmalchian did? Did you have any reservations about how they took a basically forgotten character like Polka-Dot Man and gave it some depth to counter some of the other stuff we've complained about where there wasn't enough depth?
Yeah, this Polka-Dot Man is one of the sillier members of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and this is a very different version than from the comics. The guy in the comics basically just has polka dots. They're tech based. Whereas this, I mean, I think this was a much more interesting story that his mom wanted him and his siblings to become superheroes, so she basically infected them with an interdimensional virus. I would be curious why this is one of the characters. I'm like, why is he in Belle Reve? Is it just like, did he murder his mom? I'm assuming that's what happened.
Maybe.
But if he murdered his mom, would they put him in Belle Reve? I mean, it's like, I get that the polka dots are very dangerous, but he was one of the characters that I'm like, I would like to know more about this now. And at 2 hours and 12 minutes, I understand, we don't have time to, get in the weeds with everybody, but he is one of the characters that I would have liked to have known, because I'm just like, he doesn't seem like a bad guy to me. Like, I don't know why he's on this squad of supervillains when he literally just seems kind of like a bookish dude. There's never that moment where he just loses it. He gets rid of the polka dots, which does, an incredible amount of damage. Right. But again, he doesn't seem like a dangerous guy to me for the most part. I thought Dastmalchian's performance was great. I mean, this is like, he plays such a great sad sack, I guess. And when you have that sequence when they're in the bar waiting for the Thinker and he's dancing with all those versions of his mom.
Yeah.
that was one
so
of those
weird.
the first shot where they're literally, it's the rest of the team and it's all his mom. I was like, wow, that's really funny. And then when he's just doing this gigantic dance, like, okay, now I'm getting a little like, bleh. But I thought he did He did a really great job and was used the perfect amount. I really wish he hadn't died.
Yeah, man.
I was like, that was such an unceremonious way to go. I mean, he did finally become a superhero and then immediately gone.
Well, we have to clear the path for Condiment King. So, I mean, you've got to make way for Condiment King down the road for sure. And shout out to that actress. Lynn Ash is her name. I think she's a Georgia-born actress and fantastic. If you might be wondering where you saw her, she was Paul Walter Hauser's mom in I, Tonya. She was Sean Galluli's mom in I, Tonya.
Oh, wow.
So that's where you might have seen her before. But, I mean, her as the Suicide Squad in that scene in the jungle, and then her as all dancing around him was brilliant, and then her as Starro. Oh, my God. Just all of it, Michael, was genius. What'd you think about Polka-Dot Man and how they used his mom in this?
I mean, look, great comedy comes in threes. It's always threes. Here's the joke. Here's the callback of the joke. Here's the grand finale. And this is James Gunn nailing a joke. Like, it worked so good each time, and each time was just a little bit different. And it really does show up. I mean, this is where James Gunn really, where he shines in Guardians. It's where he shines in this. Is he's such a great visual storyteller.
Yeah.
To Shannon's point, I would have loved to have known probably what Polka-Dot Man was in for. I completely buy that he is a complete psychopath and probably killed a lot of people because he's crazy. But sure, I would have liked to have known more, but I think that you get everything you need to know about him is given to you in the fact that everyone is his mom. Yeah. It is such a weird thing that visually is so unsettling and so creepy, and it works so good, and he's such a creepy dude. He was just great. It's the perfect example, and again, it's to the example of what we're talking about, because I'll probably keep talking about this, is like those arcs for these characters, is that not every character, certainly in a movie with this many characters, is going to have huge sweeping arcs. Right. But it's not about screen time. It's not about spending a ton of time with a character. It's just enough. The way my old English teacher used to say it when I said how long would a paper need to be, she would always say, as long as a dress, it just has to cover everything important. And like with him, it's the same thing. He's a weird psychopath. His mom fucked him up.
Yep.
He sees his mom everywhere. She wanted him to be a superhero. He never lived up to mom. And at the end, he gets to take down mom and be a superhero. You're like, boom, done. I am good. That is an arc. He is a winner. Like, it worked perfectly.
Absolutely. Let's see here. I wanted to hit some of these streamlines before we move on to the rest of the movie here. Rodney P says, give Kalinowski his respect. He called it over a year ago. Javelin Man was gone in the first 10 minutes. LOL. # nothing like a bloodbath to end the day. Yeah, sure. I didn't know he called it out, but sure. I mean, I think a lot of people were saying that there was going to be two teams. The first team would be wiped out, and then the second team would actually be the Suicide Squad. But if he specifically called out Javelin Man to die, then yes, give Kalinowski all his flowers, gentlemen.
Hey, I love giving Kalinowski flowers, so I'll send a bouquet right now. Hold on.
I think when we saw that trailer and the right stuff shot in front of the American flag, it was like, all right, if they don't appear in another scene, it's pretty clear who's going down. I will say the way that they used the second team, that was not something that I expected. I didn't expect it to be a distraction. I thought it was going to be kind of a rescue situation.
You mean the first team?
Yes. Our secondary team.
Yes,
rather.
Fair. Secondary, yes.
I assumed it was going to be more of a rescue situation because we see Harley with both. We see Rick Flag with both. The fact that this speaks to the viciousness of Amanda Waller, that she was willing to sacrifice this entire team to get the other team up on the beach without being detected. That was a really clever move, I think.
As a good military tactician would do. It's about it's about overall victory in the war. It is about stroking hair and making you feel good about yourself. This is the game, and she made her decisions. But I thought it was really smart from a narrative point of view, and I wonder what you guys think of having Harley Quinn, Jai Courtney, and Joel Kinnaman on that first team, all recurring characters from the first Suicide Squad movie. It made you wonder if we were right that this first team was going to be wiped out, because you have those three stalwarts. And then when Captain Boomerang died, I was shocked. Just like I was shocked when Rick Flag died. It was pretty incredible. What did you guys think? Did you think it was smart of them to kind of mess with the audience a little bit by having them be part of the first team? Or did you already assume they were going to be wiped out even though they were there?
I think yes to both. I think to Shannon's point, even though Rick Flag and Harley were there, in watching the trailers and just doing the math on the scenes and who shows up where, I'm like, I'm pretty sure most of those people are going to die. But I do think to sort of a more average viewer who doesn't obsessively go over trailers the way we do, I think you're 100% right. I think you're like, oh, that's surprising. You know, you're not expecting it. I also thought, as far as not expecting things, I really, like Shannon said, did enjoy the fact that I kind of thought it was going to be like, oh, well, we sent the first team in to try and deal with Starro. They failed, so now here's the second team, and by the way, go pick up Harley on the way. Yeah. And the fact that they were the distraction and that this was all the big thing was smarter. But then as soon as the other team showed up on the island, I started going through the trailers in my head and remembering all the scenes we saw of like Bloodsport and Weasel and everybody back at Belle Reve, and I'm like, oh well, did that all get cut? What happened? And so it also kind of led to this whole idea that James Gunn was just telling this movie completely sequentially out of order, just to like, oh well, I want to show you this part, but now I want to go back and show you what was happening before, and now we're going to go here. Oh, but while this was happening 8 minutes earlier up at the, you know, like he kind of just jumped around time-wise, but because he really made it clear when he was doing it and how he was doing it, I don't think anybody got confused, and it kind of made the story a little bit more frantic and fun.
Yeah. Shannon, anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing in the chat that people think that they weren't a distraction, that they were just sending in two teams. I'm like, how does Blackguard have access to get to contact the Corto Maltese army? Like, like you don't get that type of access in a place like Belle Reve. And basically, when that first explosion happens, when the second team is on the beach, and Idris Elba calls in, and she's kind of like, hey, and she's like, don't worry, it's taken care of. No one's going to be there. So they were a distraction. Like this was all deliberate. And the fact that Viola Davis or Amanda Waller was willing to sacrifice Rick Flag for this, again, proves sort of the viciousness of her character, and is one of the reasons I was disappointed we didn't get more of Amanda Waller.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. You know, Viola looked like she was fully uncomfortable as Amanda Waller leading this team. She was upset from beginning to end in this whole situation. Let's move on to the other two characters here. Let's move on to Ratcatcher 2. Daniela Melchior, I hope I'm saying that right. I thought she was a standout performance in the movie. I had never seen her in anything before. I immediately connected with her, immediately was worried about her, immediately liked what she did, loved the way she was always falling asleep, loved the way she kind of almost got eaten by King Shark and then negotiated friendship with him, which leads that great moment at the end. Also, like, she legitimately was the heart of that team. Like, she was always wishing for the best, always assuming the best. What did you think about her Michael?
I really liked her a lot. I do agree that she was the heart of the team. She was super likable right off the bat. I was a little curious about the sleeping thing because they kind of set it up at the beginning. They set up this thing that she was always so tired and so asleep, and I was kind of waiting for that to resolve itself into something. Like, where does this go? Why is this important? What does this say about her character or her past or anything? And it kind of just wasn't a thing. Right. You know, I do kind of to Shannon's point on the Belle Reve of it all, like, she seemed like, was she like a pickpocket? Like, she didn't seem like she was a hardened killer of men. She was just so sweet and adorable. But I did really like, you know, and clearly she's also there to stand in as sort of the daughter figure for Bloodsport so that we can sort of carry on his whole sort of being sort of a protector kind of storyline. But I think, like, even though, again, I feel like where they were going with her could have been solidified a little bit, I thought that she was so good in the role and she was so charming and you liked her so much. You liked her interplay with the rats. You liked her interplay with King Shark. You liked her interplay with Bloodsport. Like, you liked her interplay with Rick Flag and with Peacemaker. Like, every scene that she was in, you got a sense of who she was well enough. And then the whole flashback with her and Taika was kind of just lovely. I mean, you know, her whole moment at the end where really someone who we didn't really think of, you know, with all these heavy hitters on the team that is going to be that important, kind of is the one that saves the day. I mean, in a lot of ways. So I thought that combined with her flashback and what Ratcatcher 1, Taika Waititi said to her, was kind of really sweet as well. Yeah. What do you think, Shannon, about her? You know, you like to find new actors. You like to see what they can do here. Did you enjoy what she brought to the character of Ratcatcher 2 and her interactions with Taika Waititi? Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, as Vogel said, she was definitely the heart of the team. And like, I don't feel like robbing a bank is going to get you thrown in Belle Reve. Yeah. But then again, I think you can
maybe I'm like walking back my argument a little bit of like Amanda Waller sees the potential in people, just how she threatened Idris Elba's daughter.
Yeah,
that's she sees the potential to be able to use people, be like, no, put them in here, Doesn't matter what they did. Put him in here.
She could have been shoplifting at Target, and Amanda Waller would have been like, "Yep, Belle Reve bitches, bring her in."
But yeah, I thought she did a great job. I mean, she definitely she reminded me of like Ana de Armas, really. I mean, I feel like they even kind of look alike. It's kind of the role that it's just.
Don't tell Ben Affleck that. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
if Ana de Armas hadn't become like a star, I'm like, I wonder if they would have tried to have gotten her for this role, because to me, as soon as she walked on screen, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Knives Out. But yeah, I mean, I thought she did a really, really great job. And the moment at the end, her big hero moment, as she's thinking, like having that last memory with her dad, with that, that wisdom that he imparted, very, very emotional moment. Yeah. In a movie where they're fighting a gigantic starfish from outer space.
Yes. And she's being run over by rats. And I love that when he was like lying there seeing Bloodsport be afraid of the rats for sure. One last person to talk about, and that's Sylvester Stallone as King Shark. So, I mean, I'm going to go first on this. This is my boy. This is my hero. So seeing him play King Shark, I was afraid that it was going to essentially be a ripoff of I Am Groot, but Stallone actually brought his own interpretation of this. I thought it was really funny. The mustache moment was hilarious. I thought him playing with the fish was great. I would have loved to have been outside the booth, in the room when he is recording those lines of him running with the fish like a little, boy, getting all excited about it. But also, he was very vicious in the movie. Rips that dude in half with the lightning behind him. What did you think about him, Shannon, as King Shark?
I mean, when they're going in, we find out they're freedom fighters. But when that first guy that he bites in half, and you see him kind of sneaking in the background, just such a funny moment, and just the way that James Gunn shot that, so kind of keeping him in the background. But he also had one of like kind of the sweetest moments as well. Yes, after he had tried to eat Cleo, and when she's like, would you do that to your friends? And his I know friends, and like, oh my god, like it just kind of ripped your heart out. I don't know if any participants of this movie are going to cross over with the rest of the DCU. If there is a DCU, I sure would love to see him hang out with Jason Momoa. That would be a blast to me.
Oh yeah. I'd pay to go see that.
A little mini mission with those two. All right, I'm down. What do you think, Mike? And also, what do you think of the design of King Shark? There were some close-ups where his skin was very, they had that kind of rainbow look to it that you get sometimes when you look at certain scales on fishes. What do you think about all of how the detail that they brought to this character?
Well, just in general, I've been watching on Netflix the movies that made us. The new season just came out, and one of them is all about Jurassic Park and all about sort of the birth of modern CG special effects as we know them, and the giant leap forward that happened when Jurassic Park was made. And you just, as you watch the Suicide Squad, and to your point, you watch these close-ups of King Shark where you have this giant man shark that is emoting as he's got this textured shark-like skin, and his eyes are like you're like, fuck man, we can do anything. Like, it really is I also thought, to the whole like Groot thing, I think James Gunn made a really good call. Like, Groot is sort of this, at least in the first Guardians, before he becomes a little kid again, he's sort of this like wise, quiet friend who sort of like, Rocket's the explosive one, and he's just kind of there like, all right, I am Groot, I'm gonna watch out for you, kind of give him a commentary on things. And what they did with King Shark is they were basically like, look, he's a 5-year-old who's always hungry. Yeah. His hunger is just he happens to want to rip apart people and eat them. But everything about his character is it was like having a toddler on the team. Like he was like he thought the mustache was really going to be his disguise. Like, he doesn't really have friends. Like, he sees a bunch of fish in the aquarium and he jumps around and has them chase him. Like, he was this adorable man-eating 5-year-old. And I think that was such a hilarious choice. Of all the ways that they could have gone, where they got to maximize the humor. The other part that I thought was great about him is like the number of times, because like aside from like Harley Quinn, and I would have said Rick Flag and I would have been wrong. I was like, well, I think anyone is on the table for death, and because of that, I thought King Shark was dead 12 times. I kept getting so sad. I'm like, oh, Well, that's the end of King Shark. Nope, he's back. Oh, well, the building fell on him, so that's the end of King. Nope. Oh, the whole army's shooting him. Nope, he's still going. Yeah, all right, good. And like, couldn't be happier that he has some real tough ass skin.
He must be a demigod, right? A lot of people speculating he must be a demigod because I mean, Starro literally flings him into a building to just completely fall over on itself, and he falls from such a long height. And the sound when he hits the ground, you're just like, this thing is dead. This thing is dead. So clearly he's got some incredible powers.
James Gunn was clearly having fun with us. Like
yes.
He was like, I have killed so many of the people in this movie that they will believe anything that I do. Let me see how many times I can get them to believe that I killed King Shark and then be like, took it back. Psych. Just kidding.
Good point. D-La says, I don't think Belle Reve is just superhumans. Waller said she would get Bloodshot's daughter transferred there. So I think she can probably get any criminal transferred there. So that's a fair point.
I think it is a fair point. I mean, as soon as Shannon said it, I think that is true. I think that as much as we're trying to figure out what they did, and I saw people in the comments pointing out, Ratcatcher, she did say, they thought of rats as armed weapons, and that's why she's in there. But I do think that really what it is that particularly in a movie that's talking about the way that America handles things, is also the way Amanda Waller handles things. Like, there is no right or wrong. There is no fairness on who ends up in Belle Reve. Belle Reve is Amanda Waller's private playground, and she will comb every news story for any criminal that can do anything. And if she wants them, she will put them in Belle Reve. So I think that is true.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit some more of these Streamlabs. And ladies and gentlemen, we got 45 minutes till we wrap up the show. So if you want us to answer any questions about Suicide Squad, send them in now as we turn the corner past the halfway point. We're going to stop at 7:30. That's our hard out, 7:30 p.m. PT. All right, Doug Developer says, the thing I love about John Cena is that even though he's not the best actor, he absolutely gives it his all in every film he's in and is always looking like he's having a lot of fun, which makes any film more enjoyable. I would say yes, that's true. F9, not so much, but just about everything else, yes, I would agree. What do you guys think?
I 100% agree because I think a lot of times you can have very capable actors who need to be paired with that right director. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is never as good as when he's with James Cameron, and the same thing with Vin Diesel and David from Pitch Black, David Twohy, yeah. I mean, maybe James Gunn is going to be that for John Cena. I mean, again, I'm have been very, very critical of his performances in the past because it's just like some of them have made me kind of, have been a little cringy for me. There was not a moment of that in this movie, for me at least. And he actually produced some of the biggest laughs when King Shark is getting ready to eat Cleo and he's there in his tighty whities. Him just standing there, I cracked up.
I agree. They said that's racist. What do you think? What any thoughts on this, Mike?
Yeah, look, I think he's great. I mean, I've gotten used to John Cena being funny. So although I completely agree with Shannon, I think he really nailed his comic moments. That wasn't what was surprising to me. But when he made that turn at the end where he really did kind of become the bad guy, where he killed Rick Flag in that whole fight scene, but like the whole idea that for him, protecting truth, justice, in the American way trumps doing the right thing. And he really sold it. Like I really bought, like to the point where I don't know that I want to watch him in a TV series, which I guess is ultimately a backhanded compliment to his performance.
It's a fair point. I liked him too. I thought he was, and I would say this, Michael makes an excellent point. That end turn is what he has not been able to do well in films in the past. Yeah. And I would accept, I think he's the more believable as the villain in that end turn than he was in the entire movie of F9. Even though I liked F9, that was more realistic what he did in that scene with James Gunn than the entire movie playing the villain in F9. FJ Lopez says, hey guys, I really like this movie. It's in my top 5 of DCEU movies. If we get a sequel, what characters from Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad and new characters would y'all like to see? Also, Ratcatcher 2 is the MVP of this film. Yeah, shout out to Daniela Melchior again. Guys, who would you want to see come back, or who would you want to see added to the Suicide Squad?
Ooh,
I'm gonna go added because of who we've already seen. I would love to see Bane on a team.
Ooh, really?
and I would like to see Mr. Freeze. I'd love to see some Batman representation.
Okay. All right, Mike.
I only want to see Bane if he's the Bane of the Harley Quinn animated series.
Why are you saying that?
That's that. Oh, I ordered the chicken. It's my chicken. The fuck is was it in Gail Simone's run on Suicide Squad? Is it the doll, the marionette, like the super creepy? Somebody in the chat, tell me who it is. You know who I'm talking about? Like the creepy, like weird, contorts their body and all manner of everything.
Okay.
That's who I want to see because I think that would be great. I also think Catman is a really interesting villain from Gail Simone's run.
Okay.
Just because he kind of falls into that Deadshot, Bloodsport kind of like I'm a hero, not a hero. But like if we're going to continue with those kind of characters to sort of lead things. As far as just like the broader DC universe, I would love, particularly if James Gunn is going to continue with it, I would love maybe someone from Flash's Rogues Gallery, like Mirror Man or something, like somebody that has like a really weird power that sometimes in the right hands is really interesting and cool, and in the wrong hands is like cheesy as fuck. But I think that James Gunn, kind of like with Polka-Dot Man, would take some of the cheesier villains of the DC universe and really give us the best possible version of them.
I like Reverse Flash.
Ragdoll. Thank you.
God,
Ragdoll. Sorry.
I like Reverse Flash. I like Dr. Light. I love the Bane idea. That would be so fantastic. Add on to that Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy could be a way to redeem that character. You can even mess around with Cheetah if you wanted to go and recast that or find some other way around that. But Superboy could be very interesting as well. I like that idea of Superboy as a way to kind of maybe open the door to another super character in the series and have fun with it in the DC universe. But yeah. Or let's see. Bronze Tiger. That's a great suggestion, John Lee. Bronze Tiger as well. That'd be curious.
I mean, I'm on board. I didn't think about it, but yeah, as far as like, look, I think that there's a lot of people that really want to see live action Harley and Ivy together. So I think that if Margot Robbie is going to continue on the train of these DC movies, I think bringing in a Poison Ivy and having that be sort of part, maybe like wrapping that story into a Suicide Squad kind of tale could be super, super interesting and a lot of fun for all those Harley and Ivy fans out there.
All right, Haskell has two of them here. He said, hey, guys, I'm with Shannon. All this hype, how it's a masterpiece, and I thought it was only okay. A lot of good to great, funny to hilarious, and also lots of meh, not funny, and stuff that didn't make sense. And even like Rooker's character, we first see him in jail, get his backstory, and he kills a bird. Then he runs away scared from battle. If he didn't kill the bird, would have shown he's changed in some way. I thought Polka-Dot Man, his interstellar disease, was the key to killing Starro, and his death was stupid. Okay. All right, Haskell. Strong words. Strong words. Fair point, my friend. You guys have any comments on that, or we move on?
I mean, listen, you got some opinions on Rooker's character for sure. But I'm with you. I mean, look, I think that like that was sort of, I think the goal that Gunn was going for, whether it was successful or not, is this like, it was like to pull the rug out from under you. Like we spent this moment, we start on Michael Rooker, we show that he's this like, guy who can do this thing, and we're like, all right, we're going to see some shit. And then he just completely freaks out in the field. It was a nice little sort of reversal, but yeah, like especially if you were on the Rooker train, I could see how that would be like a little bit of a, what?
Yeah. Especially after he saves Weasel. You would not expect him to turn tail and run.
Yeah, fair. So to speak. Tenza Zangutsa Man. Ooh, I like that. Says, loved how much fun Starro was having smushing people as he was stumbling around the city. Keep up the great work, fellas. All right, we'll hit Rick Flag as well. Let's talk about Starro. I don't think he was having fun. Starro was a young starfish, space starfish, hanging out in the fucking cosmos, looking at the stars. He was going for a walk, in essence, and these colonialists essentially kidnapped him, put him on a spacecraft, put him in a box, then took him down to Earth, and the thinker, Capaldi, worked on him for 30 years. So his last line when he says, I just was so happy looking at the stars. That's the line of a person who was essentially in a state of arrested development, or a species rather, in a state of arrested development that was caught and tortured for 30 years. So even when they walk into the Starro lab, he's like, have you come to free us? Have you come to get us away from this guy? So clearly Starro is not a villain here, in my opinion. He is essentially like King Shark. This thing was captured at a young age, and all it's known is torture. and every human being it's ever come in contact with has wanted to torture it, capture it, or mess with it in some way. So why would he ever trust any human beings? And so him wanting to take over the city was in essence saying, leave me the fuck alone. That's my opinion. What do you guys think about how Starro was portrayed in the film?
Go for it, Mikey.
I just think one of my favorite things about Geek Buddies is just watching the hills that John Roca the Outlaw wants to die on. There's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of hills.
I'm dying on this coral reef as well.
There's Hayward Island, and now just out past Hayward Island, there's the Starro Coral Reef. And Roca is marching back and forth on that reef, and he's yelling at everybody to stay off his reef. Like, look, was Starro used by humanity? Yes. Was he experimented on? Yes. Is he a giant telepathic alien killer who would have wiped out all of humanity? Yes. Now, to the point that they made on the Streamlab, was he enjoying stomping on people? Fuck yeah, he was. Even by your logic, as someone who had been oppressed and tortured, he was super happy to step on his oppressors. I will say that Starro being a telepathic alien, I do disagree with you a little bit, that as he was absorbing everybody's face that he landed on and reading all their stuff, he probably got a little bit of a nuanced view of humanity and maybe realized that not everybody was as horrible as Thinker and the people that were experimenting on him, and he still was just going to step on everybody. So I don't know that he is the lovely starfishy snowflake that you think he is, but hey, you do you. But you do you.
He's just looking at the stars and having fun. Shannon.
Johnny, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yes.
Wow.
This poor interstellar creature was minding his business when these astronauts brought him in and were taking selfies with him or taking photos. I don't know if they had cell phones, but they were taking pictures with him. And then this creature defended itself. And as you could hear, once the Thinker brought brought part of the team into sort of the holding cell, I mean, he was basically saying like that, Greaves has done all this, he's done all that. Are you here to save us? Starro, I don't know if Starro is a he or a she, but Starro loses the moral high ground when they start ejecting little Starros, which was by far one of the grossest things I've ever seen. Oh my God.
Agreed. 1,000%.
But starts ejecting all the little Starros, taking over the rest of the city. I think that was the moment where Starro lost the moral high ground. But if I had to pick a side, I might be pulling up my boat to Hayward Island again with John.
I'm just saying, you can't capture something and completely subject it to experiments and not expect it to flip out when it finally gets a little bit of freedom. And shooting the starfish out, I don't think it loses the moral high ground. What it's trying to do is defend itself and control any human that might kill it or hurt it, because that's all it's known from human beings is pain. So maybe you're right, Mike. Maybe the telepathic, whatever, but I don't know.
I'm just saying that, like, look, regardless, I don't want to deal with Starro.
Neither do I.
I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I mean, to your point, I do believe that James Gunn is sympathetic towards his giant kaiju monster.
Yes.
And it is very clear. James Gunn is very clear on who the ultimate bad guy is in this movie.
Right.
And us. So, like, that is definitely his point. And Starro is as much a victim as many of our other bad guys are in the movie. He's still a bad guy.
Yeah. All right, fair. He said, Jesse Banana says, but he wouldn't be here to hurt us if we hadn't captured it. If we hadn't captured him, I never thought I'd say this, but Vogel, you're wrong. Oh my God. Jesse Banana turned on you.
Listen, Jesse Banana. Listen, Jesse Banana. I'm not saying that we're not at fault for Starro. I'm just saying that Starro is not. Listen, you get me at the end of King Kong, and King Kong just wants to be left alone. King Kong is lovely. King Kong is like, I just want to go with my little blonde girlfriend, and I want to go eat a banana. I get it. Starro was like, fuck you out of my armpit, fuck you out of my armpit, like all the little pieces coming out. I'm like, no. He's no good.
I like this. The Starro lives matter. I like this. I stand with Starro. I like this. Okay. dig it. All right, let's move on to Rick Flag real quick, and then we'll circle, and then we'll talk about the things that we didn't like about the movie, because obviously we've been heaping praise on the movie for an hour now. I think this is the best Joel Kinnaman. I think, as you said, Michael, earlier, James Gunn really brought out, or Shannon said, James Gunn really brought out the best in Harley Quinn in this movie. I think he also brought out the best in Rick Flag in this movie. We finally got the Rick Flag that we know from the comics. His death was tragic because he wanted to do the right thing as a military guy, which is really rare in movies sometimes. So it was great to see that, but then to have to pay the price ultimately to someone like Peacemaker was a shame. And clearly, Kinnaman had been hitting the weights knowing he was going to fight John Cena. He looked massive in this in comparison to other films or shows. What'd you guys think of him?
I feel like Rick Flag, if there is a performance that there was probably a good bit left on the cutting room floor, I'm guessing it was Rick Flag's.
Yeah.
We never actually get to deal with the fact that Waller had the squad kill these rebels. I'm assuming she knew, like, it was the rebels that were holding him. If they get control of the country, they're going to get this information, kill him.
I didn't even think about that.
We never have that reckoning.
Shit. Okay.
And I feel like by the end, the real battle that I think as an audience we wanted to see was Bloodsport versus Peacemaker. Peacemaker versus Flag. It was I don't want to say it was hollow, but when he stabs him with that shard of I think it was porcelain, and he says, "Peacemaker, what a joke." Like, I don't feel like they've connected enough as characters and what we saw for that to really land. And then when we finally do see the Bloodsport Peacemaker fight, it is over like that.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, this has nothing to do with his performance. I feel like a big part of his arc probably was left on the cutting room floor because they didn't have time.
Okay. All right. Michael, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Shannon. I think that, like I said, it kind of along with everybody. Like, Rick Flag, he's great. Joel Kinnaman's great. Rick Flag was great in this movie. And the arc that is there as it stands works. He's the leader of these guys, but he is kind of a straight shooter. He believes in what he's doing, even if he's not as he knows that Waller's kind of not the sweetest of leaders, but he really believes that ultimately what they're doing is good. You see him with the freedom fighters. You know he wants to do what's right. He's the one that says we got to go save Harley. Like, he's always doing the right thing. And so when you get to the end and he's faced with this choice, he's still going to do the right thing, and that's not what the mission is. And so, I think it's a good arc for him, but I think with a little bit more work, or maybe to Shannon's point, some of the stuff that was potentially on the cutting room floor, it could have been a great arc. But that's no diss on Joel Kinnaman. I think he was acting his ass off, and it was great. I do want to read the comment that Jonathan Gabay left in the chat that said, coming back to the Starro point, just to return to the Starro point for a minute, if you're Roca, you fly into Hayward Island, and when you land, you meet with customs agent John Walker's wife, who then directs you to a speedboat to Starro Reef.
Yeah.
I'm getting that. I'm going to get that whole quote put on a T-shirt, and I'm going to wear it every day.
Yeah, John Walker's wife. You give her some lines at least, not just to direct you. I would actually stop and have a conversation, get to know her, see what she's all about, what led to her marriage. God forbid. But yes, great quote. Thank you, Jonathan Gabay, for watching and for leaving a comment for sure. Hey, man, I point stuff out. All right, let's work. Speaking of stuff that works or doesn't work in shows, let's move over to start talking about stuff that didn't work for us overall. What are some points that stand out for you two gentlemen? You write scripts, you run shows. Mikey and Shannon, you write for Mikey sometimes on some of those shows. You guys are great at constructing these things within your own scripts and within your own shows. What worked? What didn't work for you? What are some things that didn't work for you, I guess, overall in the movie? Whoever wants to go first.
Go for it, Shannon. No, go for it.
The big thing that stuck out for me was Amanda Waller's support staff.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of that had to do with Steve Agee. And I think he's really funny, but just looking at this group of people, I don't feel like Waller would have knuckleheads working for her.
I don't think she would have hired these people. She killed all her previous people in the last film. This is the staff she hires? Yeah, it's a great point.
I don't think there would be a Deadpool of people. Like, I don't think this would happen under her watch. At least the character that I've read in the books, and that was somewhat established in the first one. And so when that one staffer knocks her out, again, the arc is there that they talk about the fact that, you know, she was going to send Bloodsport's daughter to prison, that she was threatening a kid. Like, she's basically like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I feel like they would be it just rang a little hollow for me. It just wasn't very satisfying. Yeah. And when Bloodsport is then negotiating with having that footage of Starro, I don't think any of those staffers would be alive. I think she would have had them all killed at that point. And that's the main thing that didn't work for me, because that's a big moment, because Viola Davis is just giving with her limited screen time, she is giving a powerhouse performance, and then to have someone knock her out that we haven't heard that much from, it's like, that didn't quite work for me.
And then like yell at someone else to go do their job. It seemed a little weird. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I have to say, I tend to agree with Shannon here. I don't think this is the staff she would have hired. And also, these are the people that were taking bets on who was going to die and who was going to live. Now, all of a sudden, they have a heart in their chest. That seems weird to me. Yes, these are criminals. Yes, these are villains. They're still human beings. So just because you're mad that a daughter might get put in jail, I don't think it warrants this kind of. It didn't seem like it was built up enough. What do you agree with this? And also, what didn't work for you in the film as well?
Well, I think it kind of gets to. First of all, I do want to say, even though I think you both just said it, but I think I do want to give Viola Davis props, because holy shit, like just as we've been going through all the performances, you know, she's always been the perfect casting for Amanda Waller, and anywhere that she showed up, even in the first Suicide Squad movie, she does a really great job. But this movie, they really let her, like, when she is screaming at them, when they are all going off the grid and you like spits flying from, like, she brings the heat in a major way. And, you know, for all of my critiques about the DC universe up to this point and what they've done wrong and what they've done right and what they should do differently and how they should probably, you know, switch gears, she is someone that I would keep on any roster. She owns that role, and I would love to see her, kind of the way they did in Justice League Unlimited. I would love to see a Viola Davis, Amanda Waller go toe-to-toe with a Batman, toe-to-toe with a Superman, toe-to-toe with Gal or Jason Momoa, because the thing about Amanda Waller is, like, she's not afraid of any of them, and I think she can really bring that. Now, to Shannon's point, I totally agree. I think everything in this movie, and where the good part about Suicide Squad is everything basically works, and every performance is amazing, and James Gunn is a visual director, and it's a just gorgeous movie to watch, and everything is basically there. But a lot of it is not all the way there. So to Shannon's point, just like with the staff, like, you're right, John, we see them at the beginning placing bets. This is Amanda Waller's staff, so clearly they are not in a morally, they're not on the moral high ground. And so, but you go and you see through the movie as they go, they do start to get more and more uncomfortable with what's going on. And I think you just needed, it's not a big thing. You need one or two lines with them where it's like, well, you know, what's so bad about it? Like, this is what we do every day. Why is this different? And one of them has to say, well, it's different because X. Like, you just needed, and this is kind of throughout. I mean, this is my critique throughout, which is, I think, a pretty basic critique. It's not a heavy critique. I don't think there's anything super wrong with this movie. I think if you had one or two lines with Amanda's support staff, if you had one or two lines of Rick Flag saying, like, what he really believed in, one or two lines, to your point, of John, of Harley Quinn saying, you know, well, you know, I guess I'm going to have to rescue myself. Like, even though that happened. So, like, none of the things that I'm saying, if you really love this movie and you're like, fuck you, Vogel, that was there, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. It's all there. I just think in a lot of these places where other people are saying the movie didn't really work for me, I didn't really feel it was there, I don't think that this is a, whoa, this is super wrong. I think with a couple little bits, and to Shannon's point, a lot of those bits might just be on the editing floor and were cut for time, you really could have solidified a lot of these storylines.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. That was a sore point for me, because remember, after they're all killed, the first team is, or the secondary team, as Shannon put it, are killed. They're all like dancing around to the song, and Steve A's like flicking off Weasel that is dead. It's like, well, this seems odd that these all of a sudden these fuckers grow a conscience. So to me, it was a little weird to make that turn, but they were smart enough to have another woman of color take out another woman of color and not any of the white people on the staff. That's an optics thing that I think he got right 100%, James Gunn, because it could have looked bad. I saw Grace Randolph on YouTube, and she was saying how she didn't like that they were killing these people of color, South American people of color. But later we realized it's to make a point about American imperialism. That normally I would have agreed with that point, but I think further on in the film. It's to prove a point about American imperialism overall. Does it succeed? That's up to you as the viewer. But I got what James was trying to do with that. James, like I know him. James Gunn was trying to do with that one.
Your buddy James?
Yeah, my good buddy.
You guys hang out on Starro Reef together?
Jimmy B. Listen, what for me, the other thing I think that didn't work is sometimes I think they defaulted to comedy in certain moments where it may not have been necessary to do so. And I thought that kind of dinged it a little bit. I also thought it kind of meandered when they started telling their stories in the bus. It felt a little like, oh, here's the cliche thing. You know, when I get back to town, when I get back home from the war, it felt like that kind of thing. And although it was nice to see back on a Ratcatcher 2, I don't know that we ever connected to anyone else's background other than Ratcatcher 2's background. And so I felt like that was a little bit of the, hey, let's all go to a random Mexican bar and let's all connect and let's all be on the dance floor. Although it was a nice scene, I didn't feel like it made sense. And I would have liked to have seen that used for more conversation between them individually. And there is Rick Flag and Bloodsport on their own. I would have liked to heard more about their relationship, interactions like that. That would have been nice. More with Dastmalchian and Ratcatcher 2 separately. More with Peacemaker with Sebastian or somebody having or Milton. Peacemaker with Milton outside having a cigarette. Poor Milton.
R.I.P. Milton. I did think, by the way, I will say about Milton, I did have a moment like when they were all going into the building right before the big third act, and I was like, whoa, Milton's going in. Milton's going in with them. And then it did not go well for him. So
he was running in. I was like, what is happening here?
R.I.P. Milton.
There was one other thing. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
I thought the Thinker was kind of wasted.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Capaldi, his character. Yeah, please.
Yeah, that could have been any scientist. And it's like the Thinker, is a Flash bad guy, and this version, this is I believe this is a new Thinker. This Gaius Greaves, like Cliff DeVoe, is the first Thinker from the Flash comics. The Thinker's he's a really cool character, and I feel like even if he wasn't DeVoe, you've kind of burned him now. Like the moment a guy shows up, he normally has a cap, but the moment a guy shows up, like it's like, oh yeah, the guy from the Suicide Squad. That was the only character that I was like, I wish we would have gotten more out of. Like I feel like there was an opportunity to do more with him, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of ties into John's comment about that whole scene in the bar, because I think that I had this assumption he's a thinker. Like his superpower is he's real smart.
He's out thinking everybody. Yeah.
And so he gets into the bar, and I kind of just assumed that, as soon as Bloodsport comes up to him, he's basically going to give you that thing where he's like, yeah, I spotted you right away. I deduced what you were going to do, and this person is doing this, and this person is doing this. Like, you would get that moment where you saw his superpower in action, which is how smart he was, but then somehow Bloodsport and the Suicide Squad would be like, well, we're going to get, they're so stupid that they get him, the Peacemaker's so dumb that he can't, the Thinker can't, account for him or so. And none of that really happened. So, yeah, I think he did kind of, you could have said, this is the scientist that works on Project Starfish, and it could have been literally anyone, and his role in the movie would have stayed the same. So I do wish that they had thunk of some more things to do with him.
Oh, there it is. I also think the Corto Maltesian stuff, Corto Maltese, that stuff, I thought the Corto Maltese stuff overall was very surface. Like, we don't really get the threat of this guy taking over. We don't really sense he's a guy that would kill a family and hang them in the square. The general is overplayed for all the beats are overdone, I thought. So to me, I never really sensed any danger. Even when he burned all the birds, it didn't really hit the point that I thought James Gunn was trying to make these people seem like they are bloodthirsty or evil or whatever. It just didn't really work for me overall. I thought it was very surface, and I think there could have been more. And the guy who is initially the president, he's so just not that interesting that I really didn't care.
I'm really struggling with the fact that you want to go give Starro a big hug, but the sound of hundreds of birds screaming, you're like, birds.
There's a lot of birds. There's not a lot of starfish. It's space starfish. I'm just saying.
Birds. No big deal.
But I will agree with you on the Capaldi stuff. I found that to be, I just didn't understand why. You're right, Shannon. He's just another scientist. He does nothing to show you that he is like better than anyone else or smarter than you or anything like that. Even when he essentially lures Rick Flag and Ratcatcher 2 down there, all we're seeing is essentially Nazi level experiments. There's nothing really new that he's doing down there that shows his intelligence in any way, shape, or form. So it seemed like a waste. And him like sitting on the roof. Oh, if you have personalized license plates, I'm walking back and forth. I get it, but
that was great. That was great. Harley Quinn was perfect.
It was a funny line, but it didn't really overall hit the mark that I was hoping for with Capaldi. And maybe they just had one character too many. Maybe one, they couldn't give it enough life and make it seem like it was a character that you were supposed to fear or anything like that. So, yeah, I think that's a fair complaint. Yes, a lot of people are saying a lot of people are saying the birds, the unnecessary death of birds throughout this movie. Savant hitting him with the rubber ball, and then, of course, all the birds being burnt by the general in that moment. So, you think that was unfair? Was he taking a subtle shot at Birds of Prey? Do you think James Gunn was taking a subtle shot at Birds of Prey?
I think people in the chat are saying it represents all the tweets that got James Gunn in trouble, which I think is maybe more accurate. I don't like birds. Why not? I don't like Twitter.
Brilliant.
I mean, he may have been in a delicate place when he wrote this.
Maybe burn them all. Let's see. Carol says, I was so disappointed that they killed off Rick Flag, especially after that moment he had with Harley. I liked him better in this movie. Really surprised that they killed off Boomerang so fast. Overall enjoyed it, but I felt it was a tad too gory. Yeah, was some of the gore, did that turn you guys off in any way, shape, or form? I mean, we get Davidson's face essentially getting blown off, and then from there, it's like gore central in a number of places. I mean, Savant's head is blown off. As I mentioned, King Shark ripping that dude in half and then killing so many people. Did you guys think the gore was a bit much?
The gore was silly fun.
Okay.
And that's also one of that's a James Gunnism is he kind of makes some of those, think of like some of his previous films, like he does some kind of cartoony gore.
Yeah.
I do wonder if they had not gone with the gore, could they have gotten the PG-13?
Oh.
I mean, there were an F-bomb aplenty.
Right.
Had they and again, I think there's no substitution for a good F-bomb. I mean, the moment with Idris Elba and Storm Reed back and forth. I mean, that was a great, awesome moment. I don't know if you get that, not having to be able to use the word fuck. But the gore didn't bother me, but I do wonder if the movie hadn't gotten an R, would it have made a few shekels more? I don't know.
Okay. What'd you think?
I think that's a fool's road to go down. Like, I just think that you cannot I don't think the R rating is what hurt Suicide Squad this past weekend. I think the fact that the Delta variant is flying around and you could watch the movie on HBO Max without going into a theater is pretty much what you need. I know that other movies have done better that were also on HBO Max, but I just think that I'm glad that James Gunn made the movie he wanted to make, and the gore didn't bother me. And so, I think the gore is fine. I think the F-bombs were great. And at the end of the day, I'm glad that we got that version of the movie, even if the box office was not what Warner Brothers was hoping it would be.
Fair enough. Cooley, hi. What's up, Cooley? He says, hey, buddies, I didn't really like the film. It was okay. I just thought the level of violence was too over the top. I thought it had some good moments. So, all right, there you go. Another person voting in favor of too much violence. And thank you, Cooley. Appreciate it, brother. Much love to you. And David, sorry, go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
No, I just think that I do think it is interesting because as I'm thinking about that, at the violence, as I've been thinking about the violence stuff as we're talking about it, I do think it's interesting. Like, this is why Suicide Squad is a harder thing to translate than like a superhero film.
Yes.
Like, these are villains. And part of what makes Suicide Squad fun is that it's villains being villains. But, so I think James Gunn and DC's kind of thinking here being basically like, all right, well, if we're going to make them be villains, let's do the R-rated movie and let them be villains. I think makes sense, but I can see how it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Let's see here. D. Duval 59 says, do you think Gunn had to add in the flowers to Harley's escape scene to avoid an NC-17 rating? Like Tarantino had to censor Kill Bill Volume 1, and he's referencing that final battle in Kill Bill with the Crazy 88s where he turns it black and white so that you don't see too much of the red blood on screen.
I don't think that there was anything sort of so egregious in Harley's escape scene that adding those flowers was supposed to obscure anything to get a rating. I think that was an artistic choice that he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Shannon on that. I'm trying to think through the scene, and I don't think that there was anything. I mean, there was a lot of action, a lot of heads getting bashed in, a lot of shooting people down, but I don't think that there was anything like with Kill Bill where there was just so much blood and so I think that like there wasn't anything quite as egregious. I think this was just Gunn being like, this is how Harley sees the world.
And that's that. All right, one more super chat here as I'm looking through it. I forgot to read this one. Shamir Kelly says, I love the movie. The Rick Flag and Peacemaker fight was great. The ending shocked me. Also, Milton coming along was funny, and the scene after his death when they didn't realize he was still there. Well, not they. Harley Quinn didn't realize Milton was still there, and I guess
Bloodsport didn't either.
Shit, I'm sorry. Bloodsport didn't know Milton had come along at all, but Harley Quinn didn't even know what the name of the guy was in there. So yeah, what'd you guys think about that?
That the entire Harley Quinn being absolutely sure that there was no Milton was so funny to me, and Polka-Dot Man being so just upset about the entire situation, and she just like, I am sure that there was no Milton. Like, it was great. It was great.
Remember a Milton.
Well, and also at the end when she thinks Bloodsport is Milton, like,
yeah.
we just had a long conversation about how your name is Milton.
Yeah. Did you guys like the music? Did you like the needle drops throughout the movie? Yes,
I did.
Okay.
Look, James Gunn knows how to pick a needle drop.
He does.
He has proven that he is quite good at that.
Can't deny that. All right, we've got about 9 minutes left in the show, so let's swing on over to discuss. Now, we talked a little bit about the box office. I think we're pretty much all on the same page. The Delta variant, the fact that just everything that's going on right now, and the fact that it was available on HBO Max, that limits the amount of return business. If you could only see it again going to the theater, I think you'd have seen more money for this. And someone posted in the chat a few minutes ago that Hollywood Reporter is reporting that HBO Max and Warner Brothers now next year, their films will have a 45-day wait between going out in the theaters and showing up on HBO Max. So I think that will help. Does this feel like it's pretty much a wash for the year for HBO Max and Warner Brothers with these movies?
I think it's just a wash. I think two things. Because one thing that really irks me is that Jungle Cruise came out last weekend. Yeah. And it was also available on Disney Plus for its $30 premium access. And it made around the same amount of money as Suicide Squad did.
Right.
No, I think it made a little bit more. But it also cost a little bit more to make. So I think, it's like it's apples to apples. It's a little bit the same. And we did not get a bunch of articles about Jungle Cruise being a bomb and is The Rock not bankable as a star. Right. And with Suicide Squad, we did. And look, as anybody who watches Geek Buddies knows, I am the first person who will throw shit on DC. Like, I am the first person that'll be like, well, they fucked this up again. And I don't think they fucked anything up here. Like, Warner Brothers with HBO Max, Disney with Disney Plus, everyone is making this decision right now, partially out of the goodness of their hearts because of COVID and because people are afraid to go to theaters and people still aren't comfortable and the Delta variant is out there, and partially because they're standing to make a lot of money in the long run with these streamers. They're making this decision to do these simultaneous releases, whether it's a premium thing like Disney Plus or it's just on it like HBO Max is. And this is what's going to happen. If you release something and people can watch it at home, a certain number of people are not going to go to the theaters and see it. And and if this stays this way, if we continue to live in this world, the era of the $150, $200 million opening weekend, except in very, very rare instances, will go away. Yeah. And that is the business. And I think to your point about what HBO and Warner Brothers are saying now is they're trying to figure out this formula. Yep. Like movie chains are pissed right now. Scarlett Johansson is clearly pissed. Like people are all fighting with everybody. Yeah. Everybody's, and nobody really knows what the rules are because the rules are changing so fast. Yeah. And so I think we're figuring it out. And once the dust all settles, I think movies won't make the box office they used to make, and that is the fact of it, but more people will be on streaming. So for the companies, I think it'll be a win-win in the long run.
I mean, look at Quiet Place Part 2. That made a lot of money, Shannon. It made a lot of money. So, I mean, they did not have the day and date release. So that's the thing that maybe they're looking at. We don't have enough hard data yet to start making decisions. And I think by the end of the year, we will. What do you think about this? And should they ignore the box office numbers and give James Gunn another shot at a Suicide Squad sequel to this one?
I mean, there are occasions in the past where a film comes out and does not perform that well at the box office, but does
Scott
so
Pilgrim.
well.
Yeah.
Well, but no.
Oh.
But does so well on DVD, on rentals, that it makes enough business there that it does prove to the studio, like, ooh, maybe we should give this a second shot. I mean, to me, one of the most famous examples, and this is very old, was Austin Powers. I mean, the first one came out, made about $50 million. HBO was set to do an animated Austin Powers series, but then as they saw how the rentals were just off the charts, they were like, you know what? They killed the animated series and they made two very successful box office, very successful films. So there's a reality where that can happen. Do I think it's going to happen here? I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I mean, again, because it is available on HBO Max, I don't think they've said how it did. I would be very curious to hear what, relatively what those numbers were. I hope we get another James Gunn Suicide Squad adventure. I mean, I thought this, again, while not thinking it was perfect, and like I did like it a lot more the second time I watched it, I would like to see him return to this world will he's finished up his Guardians trilogy, like come back and give us one more adventure with the squad.
Yeah. Do you guys agree? Will WB give the Suicide Squad another sequel after this weekend's box office numbers? Shannon seems to say yes or wants that.
Well,
do you think they will? I guess, do you think they will? Michael, do you think they will?
I think they will. Okay. I actually think they probably will, because I think that we don't know the numbers on HBO Max yet, and so we don't know what it's doing there. But like those numbers are going to continue on, and I think James Gunn said in an interview or on a tweet or something I saw it where he said that movies don't become classics without TV. Right. That he had never seen Jaws in a theater, but he loves Jaws. It's one of his favorite movies, and we've all watched movies on TV over and over and over and over again, and we'll continue to do so. And I think that as DC is figuring out what their universe even is, as we talk a lot about on the show about Flashpoint and what that's going to do and how it's going to reset the universe. As I'm looking at what DC has, like forget box office for a minute, but just look at the world building of what they've got. Yeah. They've got Flash over here that's doing whatever it's doing, and they've got these villains. They've got Harley Quinn. They've got this Peacemaker series to come. They got Viola Davis, who's a fucking badass. Like they've got Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who is like a better Deadshot than Deadshot was. Like they've got some characters there that are really working for them. And it would be stupid of them to just throw that away because of a weird opening weekend in the weirdest year of our lives. Yeah. And James Gunn is a known quantity. It's not like James Gunn is like some new director who came and you're like, oh, I guess this is his fault. Like the Guardians movies are what they are because of him. This movie feels like a James Gunn movie. Guardians 3 is going to come out and be huge. This Guardians holiday special is going to come out on Disney Plus and be huge. James Gunn is definitely a bankable director still, despite the weird box office, and I bet they will stick with him. Yep.
Shannon, you think they'll stick with him?
If they don't stick with him, I don't see them doing any more Suicide Squad movies.
Wow. Strong statement.
I mean, not for a while.
Okay. Fair enough. Someone pointed out in the chat, and I know we got to go here. Someone pointed out in the chat the 185 million. Yeah, his Thunder God, Cairo 776. If they do another Suicide Squad, they need to find a way to cut the budget down. 185 million for an R-rated movie about obscure villains is a tall order to make. That's a fair point.
Look, you can definitely do. Say you get, Viola Davis, Margot Robbie, say Peacemaker sticks around and we watch the series and we're all like, holy shit, we like what he did with it. You got a handful of characters there that you can put them on a much smaller adventure, a much more intimate thing on a much lower budget and stand to like net have a bigger win, but still have all the stuff that we really, really loved in this movie. Maybe without John's giant huggable starfish, but you can still have a lot of really fun stuff.
That poor starfish. He just saw the stars. He's just looking at the stars. If they kidnapped me while I was taking a stroll around here in San Diego and kept me in a box for 30 years, I might want to kill some people. All right. Anyway, let's get the hell out of here. Thank you all so much for joining us here. As we're wrapping up, please hit a like if you haven't hit a like on this. It takes you 2 seconds to swing over there, hit that thumbs up button. So please give us a like on this video. And if you're watching it later, give a like and leave a comment. Anyway, that's y'all's job. Sorry about that. Shannon, tell them what we need to tell them.
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you would like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MK2, and if you would like to follow Mr. Roca, it is at The Roca Says.
Mikey?
If you are a lover of birds, a lover of starfish, or a lover of this movie, we are glad that you joined us for this review. Look, some things that you can do to help us keep doing this is, like John said, hit the like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page if you've not already. Leave some comments below in the chat. We've been looking at all your comments in the Streamlab, but definitely leave some comments below in the chat. Let us know what you thought of this. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Let us know what you liked and didn't like about the movie. If you are listening to this on Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave us some stars and some comments there. It helps us go up in the rankings so that people can find us. And as always, the best thing that you can do is to retweet this video with a snappy little comment. Put it on your social media pages. Tell everybody to check out the Geek Buddies because we love seeing those view numbers go up. We love hearing that you guys love hearing us. We love having these conversations and we want to keep doing it. So help us out. Thank you so much.
Yep. Leave us some stars or some Starros. Hello. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much. We love you madly. And don't forget, later on this week, we've got a What If review coming, and we've got our regular show coming. And at the end of the week, we've got Bad Batch season finale. So we're going to be figuring that out. A lot of Geek Buddies requirements this week for sure. So we got more coming from you, for you rather, later on this week. All right. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode here from the
Geek
Buddies.